good sheriff, bad sheriff, a killing that was solved, but you wonder how it was solved. It was very strange. But he played in that, and it was a big, big part for him. He also, and he will tell you about this in this interview, at 70 some odd years old, he finally got a nude scene. Uh-oh. But it was just his back end. It was
Thank God.
At 70 something years old, it was just his rear end walking away in the shot.
Do we want to see? I don't want to see my own rear end at 75.
We're not going to see it, but you will see.
I think gravity takes over at that point.
Yeah. You'll see Danny Nelson as I saw him. He was an amazing man who started as the Kate's Pickle Man. Now think about that. Yeah,
wow.
He was selling pickles. So Bobby Don Bloodworth started selling dirt for Pike Nurseries, and he did the theme song. Do you know he still gets royalties on that music? Isn't that cool? And if you want
You'll have to remember that show when I was so excited, because I mean, he starts singing this song, and you know exactly who he is right
and
then,
you're going,
you know, and I had no idea. I had no idea.
Yeah. Well, this program has given us the opportunity to meet some wonderful, wonderful people. Miss Hannah has just finished a project that I went to Knoxville to do, and took my buddy, Shade Finley, who shot footage of Miss Wanda Jackson. You will get to see this in the near future. She is 72. And doing rockabilly all over the world. You will see her singing. You will see her talking to us. You will see some shots of her when she was young. She was drop dead gorgeous.
I'd say she's like us, though. She likes hair color.
Yeah, she does like a lot of hair color. She does. But Miss Wanda Jackson is an amazing, amazing talent. And at 72, she picks up that guitar and starts playing her pink guitar. Yeah. And you're like blown away. She is absolutely amazing. And if you get an opportunity to see her, it's worth the price of a ticket. It's very interesting to see how this lady, her dad was in music. Her dad encouraged her. She went on, and her husband, Wendell, has managed her for over 49 years. Now, I don't know that I want a man to manage me for 49 years. Maybe as good as Wendell has done, he books her. He says, this is where we go, this is what we do, this is how long we stay. He is very together, very organized. He kind of reminds me of somebody I know who is very together, very organized, kind of not like me, fly by the seat of my pants. So... But
You're
anyway,
talking about our new secretary at SCIF.
Yes, yeah. We have learned get it together, and Wendell does for 49 years. He's got his wife in London 1 week, in Australia 1 week, in New Zealand 1 week, and back to Canada. Now think about it. That's a pretty together guy.
Yeah, it is.
And they've been married just under 50 years. So that is pretty cool.
That is. Guess what's in my backyard?
I don't know. A tent. You're going camping.
A big whole tent.
You're going camping. I heard that.
A big 3-room tent.
Y'all, let me tell you why
in my
she's
backyard.
doing it. No, but let me tell you why she's doing it this way. She is my child. I finally found out, but I'll also tell y'all the story one day in the book of why I brought her home from Grady Hospital. But the reason
I belonged with her.
Yeah, the reason she put the tent up in her backyard, she's been camping one time. Now, my idea of camping is the Holiday Inn, and she has found if she camps in her backyard, rather in the woods, you can get to air conditioning in 90 seconds.
Well, no. B says no AC, no house. He's taking the house keys.
Oh, no.
Yes.
No.
What we've done.
Then you need to rethink this plan.
I know. He's in charge. What we have done is... I have woods behind my house, so we took this big, humongous tent yesterday. He set it up, and we set it up to face into the woods. Now, we've got the grill. We do have a fan. I was allowed a fan since we have a little power from the porch. So I have a fan, and I am going to be allowed a TV.
It's 94
I'm
degrees.
A TV.
Why are you camping?
Well, because
it's an experience.
We wanted to go somewhere and do something, and there's nothing that we can do, so we decided to go camping in the yard. We're going to use our imaginations.
Okay. I imagine air conditioning.
And so the only thing I will be allowed to do, if I beg, he will let me have a potty break. So, but no, we're going to take the dog and we're going camping, and I do get to have a kiddie pool. So
oh my gosh.
I can put my feet in it.
Now y'all.
And we're going to go all weekend. We're starting tonight, and we're going to have, we put lights up, you know, in the woods, and so we'll have, you know, little lights so I can see snakes. But it's going to be awesome.
You do have snakes in your yard.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you do.
So it is like the woods.
You do. Well, if y'all haven't been camping, let me suggest a place. And you love this place, the Tuckasegee River in Bryson City, North Carolina.
Yes.
Let me tell you about this amazing 2-hour and 20-minute trip. I owned a cabin up there for about 2.5 years, and then I owned a place on the river.
Right.
And you would stay at the place on the river, and I would stay in the cabin.
Yes.
It was so beautiful, and it is such a dirt cheap trip.
Yes.
But you can go up there, you can camp, you don't have to do like me and buy a cabin. But my friends always stayed in the cabin. I only spent 2 nights in the cabin in 2.5 years.
We had a blast up there. We went to see Buggy Cove.
Everybody else enjoyed it. Everybody got to go to Harrah's at Cherokee. They got to go to the singings up on the mountain. Everybody got to use it but me, because I never had time.
Yeah.
Take time to enjoy the things you have.
Yeah.
Take time to enjoy the things you have. And even if it means going out in your backyard, now we're going to take time to do something.
We wanted to go somewhere, so here we
You
go.
get to go. You go from your porch to your backyard.
Yes.
That's what you call a day trip extraordinaire. We're going to go to something I'm very pleased with. I was honored to get to meet Miss Wanda Jackson. When I told you I was going to see her, did you have a clue who she was?
Did not know her from Adam.
No. And I kept saying, you know the song Right or Wrong, and she's going,
Nope.
And I said, okay, Freddie Brackett.
I'm still not really sure who she is.
No, I said, Freddie Brackett, do you know who Wanda Jackson is?
If it's not already, he don't know him.
He don't know. He don't know him. But Miss Wanda Jackson is an amazing talent. She has fortitude like nobody I've ever seen. It was funny because where we did the interview was up 3 flights of steps. So as she got to the top of the steps, she was getting winded. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh.
After I saw the practice video where she was
This was before the practice, yeah.
Wow.
And she was tired. She has a bad knee. And by the time she got to the top of the steps, she said, Wendell, did you know you were taking me up these steps when you booked this thing?
Oh, no.
But anyway, you will get to see some of the footage. This is an hour-long special produced by Hannah Towns. You will love meeting Wanda Jackson. She was a lot of fun. She was tired. She was tired that day. She had been in the studio with Jack White. She had been in Nashville finishing a project that was very, very important to her. She will have some new releases in September. She is 72 doing rockabilly around the world. So sit back right now and get to know a lady that I've listened to her music all my life. I absolutely adore Miss Wanda Jackson. Here we go with Miss Wanda Jackson. In 1956, Jackson finally signed with Capitol, a relationship that lasted until the early 70s. Her recording career bounced back and forth between country and rockabilly. She did this by often putting one song in each style on either side of a single.
You know that I'm no good.
Now let's talk a little bit about, you came in from Nashville today. Is the project completed?
Yes, we were doing...
When can we buy it?
No.
When will it be available?
Well, he's telling me in order for our schedules to be able to do promotion for it, it's going to have to be September.
Okay.
So that's our plans as it stands now. But yeah, he just came in, and my last day in Nashville, so he said, well, it's all done. Finally, I've got it all mixed.
Now, I wanted to interview you today because after tomorrow in Kentucky, you leave for New Zealand, Australia, and your husband told me you had been in London lately. Yeah. You're traveling the world. You are traveling the world.
Have been since 1985, just back and forth, back down under, back around, this way, that way.
Tell me what it's like for people to see Wanda Jackson for the first time. Now, I have listened to your music forever, never met you, never thought I'd have the opportunity, and when I saw you were going to be in Knoxville, I went to work. I said, I have to do this. This is something, a lifelong dream.
Thank you very much. I'm flattered. Well, what they'll hear is a lot of Wanda Jackson songs.
A little Elvis Presley.
Well, yeah, I have an album out that's a tribute to Elvis because it was his influence and encouragement that made me try rock and roll in the first, in 1956.
Right.
And when I was the only person, only lady, doing it.
Well, what's it like for people who've never seen you to see you for the first time? Because many people wait a lifetime to see you, but now that you're traveling a lot, and it's giving people an opportunity to see you.
Yeah, it is. Well, they're going to hear my rockabilly songs from the 50s.
Here we go. We're back. Now, you got to see a little bit of Wanda Jackson. She was singing a song called Mean, Mean Man. So, ladies,
imagine that.
Ladies, if you've got a mean, mean man out there, you just put that record on, you dance around while you're washing dishes and vacuuming. Her music wants to make you move. You just want to be da-da-da-da-da. She is a very active, very busy 72-year-old lady. Now, right now, we're going to go to somebody who keeps us busy, busy, busy. Miss Dr. Kent, who is right around the corner, keeps us very, very busy, keeping up with where she is. She is just behind the dollar store, just across from Ella J. Tire. Get to know this wonderful lady who will be back with us in about 2 weeks. Dr. Kent is a really cool, very positive, very, very smart woman. So I kind of like very smart women. Have you noticed that? You know,
Yes.
And I'm so glad that they chose.
And then she has me.
Then she's a blonde. Oh, I got to talk about this. Now, we got Miss Hannah. She's a blonde. She's smart.
Yeah,
Miss
Hannah's smarter than me.
Miss Hannah did put together the Wanda Jackson special, and I don't know if she had ever heard their music before.
I don't know.
But I think once you listen to her, you kind of get hooked on it. So if you see Hannah walking around doing this, it's because she is now hooked on Wanda Jackson.
I'm wondering how many more. You're not into the eclipse, you know, Twilight.
No.
I just want a vampire of my own.
No.
But I know that their theater is going to have the eclipse movie. It's
When
coming
is it?
out. When is it coming out? Tuesday night. And how
Okay.
many tickets have you got left, Hannah?
Oh,
Midnight
wow.
is sold out. Forget it. You're left out.
That is so funny.
It's the big premiere.
She is my child, y'all. I did get the right kid at the hospital.
I got the wrong one.
I did about the wrong one. I'll tell you, that's a whole other story. But anyway, she is my child, and Angela is now her natural hair color, which is funny because I haven't seen that color in a long time.
I came in and Mr. B was like, finally, you're right.
Yeah. She'd been coloring it different colors, and women do things like that right now.
I was trying to fake it. I'm just, I can't fake it anymore.
No.
This fits me.
She is a semi-blonde naturally. So right now we're going to go to what comes natural. We have to pay the bills. We have to naturally go to our sponsors. And don't forget to tune in to Trading Time today. On Friday, he talks about all the yard sales going on. Tons and tons of yard sales. So keep in touch with Rich Scott, and if you have something to sell, call him. Remember, he is live here every day, Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Let's go now to our sponsors and to Rich Scott, and then we're going to come back, and you're going to get to meet a man who makes me smile, makes me laugh, makes me feel really good about myself, and pumps up everybody he's around.
Mr.
The most positive human being in the world, Mr. Joe Kelly McCutchen, will join us shortly. We're back. Guess who's with us? Guess who's with us? Okay, y'all have to know. Some days I leave here a little bit really pumped up knowing that I'm going to have lunch with this amazing man at Sue's Log Cabin. This amazing man, I can say truthfully, I have to have a Joe Kelly McCutchen fix.
Yes,
she will know. She'll say, Mom, you need to go see Joe Kelly McCutchen. Sometimes I let things hurt me, bother me, hold me down a little bit.
Right.
And then I walk into the room and there you are, and it's okay.
Well,
it's okay.
You know, I think God put me in your life as a cheerleader, and I enjoy that role.
Thank God.
And you know, really, I think the key to success in life is find people you can brag on. I can really brag on your mother. She's a great lady. If you have a friend and you can't brag on them, you can't really be a good friend. I can brag on you because I honestly believe, ladies and gentlemen, that this lady can inspire the whole nation because everybody needs to be lifted up. And you do a great job of lifting people up, the best I've ever seen. And you remind me of Oprah. I think Oprah does that same thing. And we need to get you nationally syndicated. I'm working on now getting, Allegheny. You've been, you're part of the Allegheny.
Love Allegheny.
Well, I'm going to tell him that on the air today. I'm going to be on the air with him at 10:35. And that goes all over the world, and we're trying to get him nationally syndicated. And we're building the Allegheny Army. We've got 50 recruiters. Well, the next thing we need to do is build the Cherie Martin Army. Get people that will recruit people to watch Cherie Martin. And first thing you know, you'll have a demand for you all over the country.
Right.
And you just have to.
Well, I told you when you first started talking to me about doing this, and I said, okay, but not everybody's going to like a Christian attitude. Not everybody's going to want to be inspired. I've listened to talk radio, and I don't tune into that negative stuff.
You shouldn't.
I can't. And some people will not, Joe, I'll tell you this, and I think I shared this with you. The first time I sat in this seat and I asked for prayer, I was very, very nervous because I thought somebody will call in and not like having prayer on television. It was exactly the opposite.
Right.
Everybody was so encouraged by it. And now today we get calls where people will say, please pray for my family, please pray for my dad, please pray for my neighbor.
You're uplifting people, you're encouraging people, and there are 300 million people in America. 10% of 300, I'm an old Georgia Tech graduate, I can do math.
He's smart, y'all, he's smart.
I can do math in my head pretty fast. 10% of 300 million is 30 million. You know there are 30 million people, Angela, in this country who would like to hear your mother energize and make them feel better. Well, you can think how many. Rush Limbaugh's got the #1 show. He has 17 million. That's only 6%. So you can have. Actually,
he only has that many
17 million. Yeah, 17.
Wow.
Sean
I
has, your hero Sean has 15 million.
My hero Sean, yes.
And we're trying to get Al. We feel like we got probably with Al now. We
5 million at least.
Well, hopefully that. I don't know for sure, but if we get him nationally syndicated, we're trying to make him the biggest. And at the same time, we can work on building you too. And that's what you have to do. You have to get a base. What you have to do is just find people in life that'll recruit for you, that'll help you, that are for you, like I'm for your mom. And I can tell anybody, tune in to Cherie. She'll make you feel good. We need to get her nationally syndicated. I say that to anybody. And what you need to do is build an army of people like me that will do that. And you can do it. I mean, it's just, you can't, and here's the thing, don't be around negative people.
Yes.
Everybody has the right not to like me.
Right.
I'm going to say, if I say you didn't like me, here's my, I'm saying, Cherie Martin, you told everybody you don't like Joe McCutchen. So I run into you. How you doing, Cherie? Good to see you. I'm gone, though. I'm not going to say come have lunch at the Log Cabin with me.
That's right.
I'm not going to do that.
But you do still speak and pass and repass.
Yes, and I want to mention something. Yesterday I had a meeting with Ross Evers, who's chairman of the Democrat Party, and of course I'm a Republican, a conservative, but he was one of the nicest people. He goes to my church, and you can have, he's a wonderful man, and if anybody out there is a Democrat, you got a great chairman in Gilmer County, a wonderful man. We don't agree on a lot of things, but that doesn't mean he doesn't love the country just as much as Joe McCutchen. So I think you need to find things with people that you can agree on.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have to sit down and, I mean, we all disagree on certain things.
Right.
But the reason I'm happy, I'm 70 years old. I have a lot of people like you.
You look fantastic.
Well,
I
thank
would
you.
never have guessed you were 70.
Well, I walk 4 miles. I tell you what I really believe. Now, this is my key to happiness. I get up every day about 5. I love the stock market. I turn on CNBC, see how my stocks are doing. Then I may go to C-SPAN. I'm a political junkie and a stock market junkie. I'll switch back and forth. Then I'll get dressed, I'll eat breakfast, and then I start walking. And it is the happiest. I just love it. I think about who I'm going to have on my show, what I'm going to say on the radio today. Today I'm talking about the Tea Party, which I think is the most powerful force in American politics. But I think about what I'm going to say on your show. And here's the deal we want to do. We want everybody that deals with Cherie or Angela or me to win. I don't want anybody, if you told me, Joe, when I'm around you, I feel like I'm losing, I'd say, well, honey, you need not to be around me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll try to be nice to you, and I will, but you got to have that attitude. You want anybody to win. I don't have any malice toward anybody. If you told me, Cherie, who do you want to hurt? You or God? I don't want to hurt anybody.
Right.
But I've been blessed because
Right.
I haven't had the conflict that you've told me you had. I've just been real blessed. I've been here since
Right.
I graduated from Tech in '62, and there's nobody that hadn't been nice to me.
Right.
If you say, Joe, take me to somebody that's been mean to you, nobody.
Well, I told you the
Nobody.
story of my grandmother, and financially, you've got it made.
Well,
But you also were born into
yeah,
wealth.
that's true.
And
That's
I asked
exactly
you
right.
at the log cabin in front of a large group of people one day, I said, Joe, could you have taken, my grandmother's income was $105 a month. Could you have paid her rent, bought her groceries, and saved enough to pay my grandfather's funeral?
I wouldn't be as happy as I am today.
I guarantee you wouldn't. But was Granny happy?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Well, money doesn't make.
Absolutely.
I'm happy and I'm blessed to have money, but it's not because of money that I'm happy. It's because of people like you that I love, that I'm around. And I've got a lady that works with me, Martha Wheeler, my associate. She's been with me 43.
love Martha.
Martha's great. She's been with me 43 years. I can leave my wallet with her. She could write my newsletter. I write a monthly newsletter. She could do it. She is brilliant. She's loyal. She's smart. And I mean, I'm so blessed to have her. So when I go out of town a lot, and she takes care of my business.
Yeah.
And I know that she would not do anything.
You know how I have day trips and staycations? He has go-cations. You have go-cations.
But you know what? When I go down to Sea Island, I want to share this with you. There's a guy named, I was in Leadership, Georgia. Angela, they started back in '70. They picked the top 50 leaders in Georgia, and I was along with Sam Nunn, and this guy, Bill Walker. Well, Bill Walker owns Bill Walker Aviation. And I was coming off the beach at Sea Island doing my 4-mile walk. I do that. And Bill said, Joe McCutchen, how you doing? I said, well, Bill, good to see you. How you doing? Well, I thought he was worth millions of dollars. Well, he told me, have you heard about what happened to me? I said, what do you mean? He said, do you know that in '92, I had $20 million worth of planes, $10 million in debt. I mean, I paid for $10 million.
So he was to the good 10.
Yeah, and he said, I went bankrupt. Everybody quit buying planes.
Wow.
And I said, what did you do? And he said, well, I found out there was a commemorative flight and he lost all of his money. He said, I went from multi-millions down to zip. Anyway, they came up with a commemorative flight to Lithuania. And he's a pilot, so he can fly. He owns the airport. And so he flew this plane to Lithuania. Well, the president of Lithuania met him and the prime minister, and they didn't know he had gone broke. They said, look, you're a pilot. You understand airplanes. Would you build an Air Force for us? And he said, he didn't tell him he was broke. He said, yeah, I will. Well, and he said, this was all God. He said, they paid him like he'd buy $20 million worth of Boeing planes for Lithuania. They'd pay him 10%.
Oh, wow.
So he said, Joe, in about 2 years, I went from being negative millions to back to, he went from, you've heard of from rags to riches.
Oh, yeah.
Bill Walker went, I'm going to talk about this on the Gainey show today. He went from riches to zero and then back to riches. And I asked him, I said, well, gosh, Bill, can I tell this story on the Allegheny show, and would you interview with him? He said, Joe, I'd be glad to, but he attributes it all to God. Then, let me tell you what happened. The president of Lithuania called the president of Latvia and said, look, we got a guy here who's great. Would you want him to build your Air Force and your infrastructure? So he had all these countries paying him millions. He would go to Boeing and he said, here's a letter. We want to buy $20 million, pay Bill Walker 10%, $2 million. And he said, Joe, I had all these millions. So here's a guy, and he attributes it all to God. And so now today he still owns Walker Aviation, and so all these multi-zillionaires fly into Sea Island, and he said that he could tell business is picking up because the jets are coming in.
That is awesome.
But he attributes it all to God, and I feel in my life that God's been awfully good to me. I mean, I'm truly blessed, and I feel like God. I'm in your mother's life. I'm a Cherie Martin cheerleader, and that's what my role. I'm an Allegheny cheerleader. I think God gave me ability to cheer for people like your mother, and nothing would make Joe McCutchen happier than seeing your mother nationally syndicated. Because there's no listen. She does it for 100,000. Do the same thing for 50 million. Right. Everybody. Hey, listen. Have you ever met anybody who doesn't need to be picked up?
Nobody.
And Cherie, you tell all these stories about all the people, and they can relate to you because of all of the. Now listen, I tell you what, if I'd had the stress you had, you would have been at my funeral. I mean, gosh, I hope I never go through the things.
I haven't talked to you since this week, but this week I had a little really struggle going on, and I had this 3.5-hour meeting. And as we were going from lawyer to banker to lawyer to banker, I looked at the one of the bankers who happens to be a fire chief, and I said, "You might ought to call 911 right now. I'm about to blow." And he said, "Well, your face is getting a little red." I said, "Yeah, it is, isn't it?" You know, and I said, but I dealt with it, and then I put it aside, yesterday I finally broke and cried.
That's
and,
good.
And I had to do that. Yeah, I had to do that because I had been so strong, so tough, so determined, and then I broke and cried.
Well, that's nothing wrong with that.
And when I did that, I thought, man, I'm just human. I'm
Sure
just
you
human,
are.
you know.
Well, see, people can relate to you because nearly everybody is going through a stressful situation. So when they hear you have people on your show that have gone through stressful situations, they can really relate to them. But my whole theory of life, Angela, find your passion and surround yourself with positive people. That's why I'm the happiest. I think I'm the happiest person that's ever lived. And I've been so blessed because I have a ton of people. Homer Rice, athlete, I'm a big Georgia Tech fan. I started a newsletter in 1982. I've been writing it 28 years. Well, Homer Rice every year sends me a letter thanking me for what I do for the taxpayers. Say, Joe, you're the greatest friend of the American taxpayers. Well, what do you think that does for me? Here's the guy Homer Rice was coach of the Cincinnati Bengals. He's one of the most powerful men in the country, and he writes me a letter. And he sends me a check with it and says, Joe, thank you for what you're doing. And I'm sitting here saying, I've got the mighty Homer Rice telling everybody how great I am. And so he's my cheerleader.
How awesome.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, who are your cheerleaders?
Well, I'd say Homer Rice at Georgia Tech. My wife, I've got the greatest wife. I've lived with her we got married in 64. What does that make it? 46 years. She was a valedictorian in high school, and she was May Queen, homecoming queen, president of her sorority. Really outstanding person. And a lot smarter than I am, but I've had like Martha, my secretary, who's great, my wife Betty, they're cheerleaders for me. I've just had a lot of people that, this Bill Walker, Sam Nunn's always been supportive. I've had a lot of people that tell me they believe in me, and so that leaves me free to praise your mother. You see what I mean?
She's your cheerleader.
I don't have any problem. I'm not insecure. I mean, I have a lot of self-confidence because I've been built up. See, I haven't gone through, well, my mother always told me, you know, when I was growing up, she said, you're great, you can do anything. Well, I believed her.
Yeah.
And I've always I was president of the student body in high school and president of the student body in college, and I've always just had a lot of self-confidence. And there are a lot of good people. And so I think when you have somebody that's being mean to you, this is hard to do. Pray for them.
Yeah.
Pray the love of Christ, the love of whoever they believe in will get in their heart. Because see, love is the greatest thing. My heart's full of love. I don't dwell on malice. I mean, I don't have anybody that I think about that's evil. I'm sure Hitler was evil. I didn't want to know him. If Hitler was around today, I would avoid him.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you control your thoughts too. I mean, you think, what I do is if I start thinking negative, I think about somebody like your mother that's great, and I think that, you know, I want to be Cherie's cheerleader, Allegheny's cheerleader, any conservative. I'm so far to the right. I'm till of the hunt. But yet, meeting with Ross Evers, the Democrat, yesterday, it was a wonderful meeting. He's a wonderful man.
Yeah.
And we just happen to disagree, but that doesn't mean he's just as good or better than I am.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Let me ask you something, because I didn't know your mom and I didn't know your dad.
Okay.
Out of the two parents, who influenced you the most?
Well, I would say my mother did. My mother was, she was Christine Bandy, and her father had about a fourth grade education, and he was the first man to make $1 million in the carpet industry, and he gave Mother and Daddy $50,000, which is back in 1937, was a lot of money, and they came over here and started J&C, Joe and Christine, my mother and dad. They started the company, And one year they made about, back in '46, I think they made $500,000, and they gave $75,000 to the school, and they named the field McCutchen Field. But you know what was great about my daddy was extremely successful, but Mother always told me that I could outdo him. She always
Really?
said, yeah, she said, you're the greatest. And so she built my confidence, and she told me that, you know, said you can accomplish anything you want to. You know, you could be president of the United States if you wanted to. So I've just always grew up speaking. I love to speak. I mean, I do a lot of speeches, and I don't use any notes. You know, I'm going to get on the Gainey show today. Well, I'll write down a couple of things. But yeah, my mother would tell me that I was great, and then I had a grandmother who, you know, when I made honor roll, she gave me $5, and she told me. So I'd say my grandmother and my mother instilled confidence, and they also taught me, Angela, to give back. I mean, I want to give back. Like, you know, if I could be a part of making your mother national, that would thrill me. And Allegheny, I mean, nothing would thrill me more than to help your mother get national and to help Allegheny, because that's sort of my goal right now, those two things. And they go together, because Al's a supporter of Cherie, and Cherie's, see, that's another thing. You help other people. There's enough room for everybody to succeed.
Right.
There's not a certain, here's the pie here. We want to enlarge the pie. I don't want Cherie's piece of pie.
Right.
Let's enlarge the pie. You see what I mean?
Exactly.
We don't have to. See, I don't have, jealousy is a terrible thing. I mean, if Cherie becomes nationally recognized, I mean, I don't have a jealous bone. I say, boy, I'm so proud of her. I won't think, well, I wish I was. I'm happy. Well, of course, if Allegheny is syndicated, I'll be syndicated because I'm part of his show. But I mean, if Al wasn't syndicated and Cherie was, I would never say, oh, well, I'm upset. I mean, I don't have time for negative thoughts. I've got to work on Joe McCutchen, making myself a better person. I don't have time to, you know, to be. Your mom's great. I mean, I tell you, if I'd gone through what Cherie Martin had gone through, I'd probably kill myself.
Well,
or a few others.
Yeah,
I've made that statement before. I sometimes wonder what in me kept me from committing suicide. And I've thought about that a lot, because
you're a strong person. You're very strong.
I truly, did I tell you the story of 4 weeks ago when I was headed to Fannin County and a tractor and trailer met me head on?
No.
Did I tell you the story? It was at the lowest point, and I was going 5, and the tractor and trailer was coming toward me, and I thought if I hit him head on, everything would be over today. And then I thought, oh, everything would be over today. No, I'm not ready for everything to be over. But I had that thought, and I thought, wow, that is very scary that anything got me to that level. And that's when I called you, and I said, Joe, I got to see you. I've got to talk to you. That was the day that I totally turned my life around, and I said, I know that God has me exactly where He wants me to be.
Yeah.
And Charlene and I have had this conversation a million times. When you are doing exactly what God planned for you, the devil will try everything in his power to stop it.
No.
You're not going to let him do it.
No, the devil works hard over time.
You're a natural at what you're doing. I mean, you have a great ability to encourage, and you have such a relaxed way that I think you could interview somebody asleep. I mean,
maybe.
You're really good. I mean, and see, I know you care about me, and I think you project that.
I love you.
I love you too. I think you project that love to everybody you're around, and that's a great trait. Don't you think your mom has that?
Yes.
And that's why, I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that you can be nationally syndicated. And you know, the American people need you. Everybody needs somebody to lift them up, to give them an encouraging word. Because see now, here's where you're better than I am. I can't tell people that I started from scratch. I had a lot of help.
Right.
See, you can say I was down to the bottom. I can't say that. It's like I tell Oscar Poole. Oscar's writing a book, and he's got you in the book about your show. And Oscar was broke at 59. Your age. Broke, B-R-O-K.
Right.
Today he's got a home in Florida, a home in Blue Ridge, and I mean he's on a vacation up in North Carolina writing his book. He's going on a cruise. I mean, he's independently wealthy. But he had nothing.
At 59 years old. Yeah. That to me is amazing. Now, can we talk about Ronald Reagan and where
I love Reagan. He's my hero.
I did not realize that Reagan didn't really have it together until his early 70s. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, Ronald Reagan, who's my hero, Margaret Thatcher there. I call myself a Reagan-Thatcher conservative. Ronald Reagan, what's really interesting, Reagan challenged Gerald Ford, the incumbent president, in 1976. And he came within 1% of beating him. And he didn't even tell his wife this. He went back and started writing radio speeches, and he was determined to run again. And of course,
he was how old at this point?
He was 65.
That just blows my mind.
65 years old.
Yeah.
And his wife told him, and said, well, honey, you've already been governor of California 2 terms. You nearly were named the president. He didn't say anything. He just went back and started writing those speeches. He knew, and then he started going out and giving the speeches. And, of course, you know the rest of the story. He had a landslide and went over Jimmy Carter, then had a huge even bigger over Walter Mondale. And I think he's the greatest president in history. I think he wanted to reduce government. The guy we got in there now, God bless him, he's a good man, but he wants to increase government. See, when this camera comes on, I can't say, government help me.
Yeah.
I have to go to Joe McCutchen. You have to go to Cherie. You have to go to Angela. See, I think that's a great thing. It's up to individual responsibility. Ronald Reagan was a champion of the small government, less taxes, and that's what my newsletter is all about. Less government, less taxes, more freedom. I think Reagan is the greatest president by far in history. I'd say Washington second, Jefferson third, Lincoln fourth. I like John Kennedy. John's a Democrat.
I love John Kennedy.
I love John Kennedy was a good
Love
man.
John Kennedy,
John, I'm not. It's not just Republicans, but Reagan to me, he came from a poor family. His daddy was a drunk, and I
didn't know that.
He had to go out and pick up his daddy when he was about 12 years old. He was drunk on the porch. Neil Reagan, and his mother was his strength. His mother said, "Ron, of course he was a good-looking guy. Said you're good looking, you're smart," and so she energized him, and he was in a movie star. He played George Gipp in the great movie about the Notre Dame football star. And anyway, he was a great speaker, but he had that drive. Anybody that's successful, I think you got to have good people skills. You got to have drive. You got it. You got to believe in yourself. You do that. And you got to be around positive people. That is probably, Reagan had a lot of people. See what happened? He had a lot of, how he got started, a lot of rich California businessmen came to him and said, we want you to run for governor. And he said, okay. And then he ran, he was a 2-term governor. Then they said, we want you to run for president. Well, he took on incumbent president and lost. Then he came back at 69 years old and was elected. And I think he's the greatest president in history. He's my hero, Margaret Thatcher. One of the great thrills of my life, I was in Atlanta. My son's president of the Georgia Public Policy Foundation. He's conservative like his daddy. And he had Thatcher to speak to the group. Well, Thatcher was sitting down, about like you are, and I went up and hugged her and said, you're my hero. And she got up and turned around and gave me a bear hug.
Wow.
And there were 1,000 people there. And after she spoke, I told Betty's with me, I said, I want you to go up and introduce you to her. Oh, Joe, look at all those people around her. Well, she saw me and did like this. And that was thrilling. She said, I want to meet your wife. And so that was one of the great thrills. And she came from a poor family. Reagan and Thatcher, who are my hero and heroine, both. Reagan's father was a salesman who was not successful, and Thatcher's father owned a little tiny grocery store.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
I mean, you got to believe. I think the main thing to have, I asked Otis Brumby, who's one of the most powerful people in Georgia, I had lunch with him. He owns the Marietta Daily Journal, 400,000 subscribers. I said, Otis, how did you do it? You become one of the most powerful people. You got a home down here in Sea Island. You got one in, he's got one in Altoona. He's just done extremely well. He said, Joe, friends. I mean, friends. I mean, and just like with you, we get enough friends, Angela, we can make your mother, she needs to be on the air to encourage people, because you need to. I've studied success all my life. I read every success biography. They usually get up early. They have a lot of friends. They have drive. They're pretty smart. You don't have to be brilliant, but to be real successful, you need to be, and you're smart, plenty smart.
Let me ask you about another mutual friend. I love Phil Kent. Now,
oh, he's good. I talked to him.
So cool.
Talked to him yesterday morning.
Phil Kent gave me some advice, and we talked a little bit, and he said, you can do anything you set your mind to do.
Yeah.
He's on the Georgia gang.
Yeah.
Now, how did he end up from where he was to where he ended up?
Well, he was the press secretary for Strom Thurmond, and Strom loved the women.
A whole nother story. Now, y'all, one day, he
Strom
loved the
Thurmond
women.
loved the women, and
He
Strom was
did.
a powerful senator, and
He was.
And Phil was his press secretary. And then, of course, that got him recognition, and then he moved to Augusta. He was editorial page editor for the Augusta Chronicle, and then he moved to Atlanta, and he became a consultant, and now he's on the Georgia gang. You can watch him on television every Sunday at 8:30 on Channel 5, and he's a good guy. I talked to him yesterday.
Yeah.
We had a good talk.
I really, really like Phil Kent.
He's going to substitute for Allegheny, and you need to get him up here. Phil knows a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's a lot who you know.
Yeah.
You got to know the right people. And I've all been blessed with knowing a lot of sharp people that are in key positions. And I was in Leadership, Georgia when I was first class 71. I was about 33. Then they had a group called Young Presidents, people that were president of companies with so many $1 million in sales. So all the top executives in the Southeast were members of this group. And I remember, this is real funny. I went there, and you had to get, they ask you to come, and they look at you before they invite you in. They asked us to come to Nassau. So we had to make a speech. And so when I got there, it's sort of embarrassing because they were all saying, where do you park your plane? I don't have a plane. And I got up, my speech was this. I said, ladies and gentlemen, I know you're going to be voting on me. I'm the poorest person here. I don't have a plane. And everybody laughed. And I was on, everybody else had the guy that owned the Carolina Panthers football team, Jerry Richardson. Yeah, I ran into him in the men's room of all places. And I was, as we went to the bathroom, we washed our hands, we shook hands. And he said, Joe, where's your plane parked? I said, Jerry, I don't have a plane. He said, you don't have a plane? Why not? I said, I don't have the money to buy one. A $50 million jet. But I've been around, people like that are extremely wealthy, and they're mostly really nice. People say rich or not, but but I'm not most of the rich people I know. You take the Harrison family, and this is a great thing here that ETC. I mean, they've given the two of us a great opportunity, and we'll never forget them, right? The Harrisons, Roger Futch, I have nothing but the highest respect for them because I've enjoyed. I've been here. I'm starting my 9th year or 10th year, I think. And they gave me that opportunity.
Right. I don't know if I've shared this story with you, but you know the story of when we lived in the brick house, I walked across the street and I rented the old Miss Frances Champion house to start a business. Well, my business for 2 years, we didn't do enough to even pay the power bill. And I kept saying, I'm going to give up, I'm going to give up. And I said, no, I'm not going to give up. I'm not giving up. So I kept on and on and on, and the first order I got that was a big order was $12,347.
That's a lot of money.
And I will never forget that. I called, and Kathy was there, you were there, and I can't remember. It seems like Sabrina worked there then. And I said, I've got this $12,347 order. And Kathy said, well, when do we have to have it filled? I said, we have 3 weeks to do this. And they started laughing in the background and said, yeah, 3 weeks, we can do this. I said, we can do this. We can do this. Well, we started and became the most dollar-producing vendor with Kroger ever. And we were the world's largest producer of handmade gift items done in Pickens County. Fantastic. And then I had a crew of women in Alabama working for me. I'd never had to speak publicly. And I'm in Indiana doing a trade show, and 4 booths down from me is a gentleman, Paul Kruger. And after the first day of the show, he walked up and he stuck out his hand and he said, I need to meet you. And I said, okay, who are you? He said, I'm Paul Kruger from Omaha, Nebraska. And I said, nice to meet you, Paul. And he said, I want to know what your story is. And I said, why? And he said, because I'm 4 booths down and they get to me and they're still talking about you. And I said, that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
You're a great salesperson.
But I was terrified to speak publicly. So the next day at a convention, they said, Cherie, you're #1 in sales. We want you to speak to the group. And I'm good with this until I start to step 6 steps up on the stage. And I swear to you, my knees would not walk. My hands were soaking wet. And I'm like, oh no, I'm going to throw up right here on these steps. And I'm thinking I'm about to puke. And I walk up the steps, and one of the biggest dudes in Kroger stuck out his hand. And he said, Cherie, I want you to tell us your trade secrets. And I looked at him and I said, well, Everett, I got here in a Mercedes, not a Pinto, and I am not telling my trade secrets. And I broke the ice. And once I did, I was okay. But honest to goodness, I thought, get me a bucket. I'm going to throw up right here. I cannot give this speech. And once I did it, it was like, okay, this is really cool. This really works. But I had no self-confidence.
That's amazing.
Zero.
Amazing?
I had less than zero. And you know why I had less than zero.
Yeah.
So
you told me that.
Talk about being beaten down. And when I stepped on stage and 600 of the buyers from Kroger applauded, well, they were applauding because I'd made them millions of dollars that year, you know.
Well, see, that's great.
And it was good for both of us, but it brought me from a dowdy housewife. Was that pretty much, would you describe me as that?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
You know, who had been told forever, you're stupid, you can't do it. Why did you go back to school and get your GED?
See, that's a great story.
Why did you go get your real estate license? Why do you think you can pass that test? And I would ace the test in 55 minutes. They'd say, this is a 4-hour test. I said, that's a piece of cake, and I would do it. I was building my own self-confidence because I had zero. I had zero self-confidence.
Well, see, that's important to be around, to build that self. Now, here's another thing. Winston Churchill, who's a great leader, he made a speech one time, Angela. He said, All he said was, he got up and he said, never, 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 never give up. Persistence, I look at it this way, there's a lot of room at the top because most people will quit. See, you don't quit. And that's the best lesson I can say is if you really believe in yourself and don't ever give up, because you're right, most people are going to give up. And if you just keep on plugging, keep putting one foot in front of the other, and I mean, but your story is great, see, because people can relate to that. I mean, they can relate to it. And
most people who lived my life would be in jail.
Listen, I mean, I don't know how you see. I mean, I've been blessed. I haven't. Gosh, I don't want to go through what she's been through. But you got to find your purpose in life. I think my main goal. I'm a cheerleader. I'm a cheerleader for your mother, Allegheny, for the conservative cause. And you got to. And I love encouraging people. But I've got to believe it. See, if I didn't believe in your mother, if I didn't think she could be nationally syndicated, I would not tell her.
Right.
I'd say, Cherie, I think you're a great person, but you're out of you can't do it. I know she can do it. Because if she can do it for 100,000, she can do it for 30 million. And there's a lot of money in it. Yeah. I mean, it's just getting the word out. And so we're doing the same thing with you we're trying to do with Gainey, because I'm convinced that Allegheny needs to be national and you need to be national, and y'all can work together to help each other accomplish. That's another thing. We work together, and just like meeting with a Democrat leader, he's a wonderful man. The Democrats love the country just like I do. We just have difference of opinion, Right?
We do, and I said that's one of the things. Some of my best friends are Democrats, and I take a lot of heat for being. I am a diehard Republican.
They probably give you a hard time having Joe McCutchen on your show today. You have that right-wing Republican on your show.
That's okay.
I call myself really a Tea Party guy now.
Well, I value all the friendships I've made along the way.
Well, you have.
I value every single one of them, and there are some amazing people. One of the things I shared with you, I did never have a father figure to be that man for me to go to and to look to. And during the past few years, I've built some great relationships with men who now I look up to, And I think it's made me a little different because I respect, like Papa Jack Bryson. I mean, there's nobody any better than him, Carla Abernathy. There's so many men that I look at, and that's why when I talk to you, I always wondered, I know a little tiny bit about your mom, because I've heard that she was really aggressive, really good businesswoman.
She taught me about, my grandmother and my mother taught me about the stock market. They called me Joe Kelly. Joe Kelly, buy good solid stocks like Coca-Cola and Exxon and stick with them. And I've done that my whole life, and that's why I've been successful. I buy good stocks, and I also have 5 good financial advisors. Calvin Rowland's one of them, brother-in-law up in Virginia. But if you're going to be successful, you got to surround yourself with successful people.
Right.
You don't want to, if you're going to invest in the stock market, you don't want to invest with somebody that's been losing money. I mean, it's over the lifetime. The last couple of years has been tough on everybody. Yeah. But the key is my whole philosophy is deal with blue chip people like y'all and blue chip stocks. Coca-Cola, Exxon, Procter & Gamble. And then have fun. Yeah. I mean, just like on this show, I'm having fun. Can you imagine me saying to somebody, I just think Cherie Martin's great, and somebody said, well, Joe, do you have any fun with her? No, I don't have any fun with her. Well, how would I enjoy being with her?
Right.
See, she's a fun person, and that's why I think that you would be great nationally, because you're fun. I mean, I can't be around you and you tell me all this stuff that's bad that that you've encountered, and I don't want to laugh, but you make it funny.
It is funny because I overcame it.
Like the jet, we won't tell about the jet ski, but that was a great story.
That was a great story. Were you there the day of the jet ski?
I know this. I talked to you on the phone during.
That's a great story. We won't tell that on the air.
That's kind of why we're going camping this weekend. We're both financially strapped, and we just want to have fun.
Well, that's the key.
So we're camping in the backyard.
That is, it's to have fun. If I had to say the one thing that I would advise everybody to do, have fun. If you're dating a girl or a man and you're not having any fun with them, I mean, Freddie's been a blessing in your life. You have fun with Freddie, right?
Absolutely.
Well, that's the whole thing. I mean, when you come out to the Sue's Log Cabin, eat with me, all the guys enjoy your mom. We all have fun. We get tickled. In fact, when I was on her show, I mean, like today, the only thing I worry about, I'm afraid I get so tickled I can't talk.
Do you get her to laugh until she starts crying?
But she's great, and I think we just need to build the Cherie Martin Army like we're doing the Allegheny Army and get her. And then Rome was not built in a day. It's amazing. Right. You've done this in how many years now?
Well, I've been on TV 6 years.
Well, see, that's incredible. I mean,
And when you think about it, I was the most unlikely person to ever be on television.
Yeah.
You know, I was running the trucking company, running the florist, selling real estate. I had 3 jobs, and then when they came and it was like an interview and then an interview and then another interview, and then all of a sudden they said, well, can you give us a 4-minute segment a week? And I said, oh, I don't have time for that. And Kathy said, oh, you're going to make time for that. So there was a plan in place.
And it was fun.
Yeah, it was fun. And I think that was the thing. You just hit on it.
You have fun down here.
I had to have something that was so much fun. And it's always been fun.
When I tune in to see you in the morning, I mean, that's the first thing I think. I mean, there have been a couple of days, you know, when I've been in a hurry, I say, well, I hadn't got time to listen to Cherie today. Then I'll sit down and I say, boy, she's having fun. And it just puts me in a great mood. And that's a great ability. That's why you can do this nationally, because people watch you and they're having fun. And also you tell uplifting stories and you have guests on that are uplifting. And I cannot emphasize enough, have PMA, positive, Joel Osteen, positive mental attitude, be around positive people. And if you have somebody as a friend and you can't brag on them, see, I can brag. Here's my test. I can brag like somebody. Here's my 30-second soundbite on Cherie. She's a wonderful lady. She's fun. She's inspirational. She's just a super person that needs to be nationally syndicated. What did that take? 20 seconds. So if you can't really brag on a person, then you can't be a good friend.
Right.
See what I mean? I mean, that's important. You've got to really, and vice versa. But I've been blessed. I've had just a lot of people that have believed in me through the years, and I've had a very charmed life. And see, the thing about you, though, Cherie, and Oscar Pooh, y'all have come through all kinds of tough times. I didn't have to
You
do
didn't
that.
know that.
I didn't know that. I didn't.
I asked him, I put him on the hot seat one day. I said, you really were born with a silver spoon in your mouth, weren't you? And he said, yeah, I was. And he was honest
And I've
about
enjoyed
it.
every minute
Yes,
of it.
he said that. He said that. And I said, wow. Well, we're going to take a break right now because I want to share. I told you about this. It's funny because about 10 years ago, or maybe 8 or 9 years ago, Pam Cavender interviewed Danny Nelson. And I remember seeing that interview, and he was a younger gentleman in his 60s. And, oh, it's not? You're kidding me. And I watched it last night. Isn't that strange? Y'all aren't going to get to see it.
Sorry.
But we'll do something. We'll make a copy of it. Somehow we'll figure this out. But Danny Nelson was a guy who was probably unlikely to be successful.
Right.
He started out selling Kate's pickles. And he talks about all the different places he went, and people said, you're the Kate's pickle man. You know, he was recognizable. But he lived here in Gilmer County, and when I started talking about him, have you ever met him?
No, I hadn't.
See, he's a wonderful man who lived here in Gilmer County. He died last weekend.
How old was he?
75.
Wow, that's
75. But when he sat here on the set about a year ago, it's funny because I'd seen him on television, and he was kind of bigger than life to me. And then he sat down next to me, and he was just a guy. He was just the nicest guy. So,
well, I'm sorry.
But he died last weekend, and I'm not sure what I think there was a memorial service planned or something, but he came to J as a movie star and has been here all these years, and you didn't even know him.
That's right.
So I'm surprised because you usually, and he had a great success story. He adopted his 2 grandchildren who were 1 and 3. And he and his wife raised those children here. So he had a great success story that started probably as an unlikely person to be a success. So there are a lot of those stories. And when you see somebody who came, you had it all. And I, you know, I can remember Christmases where we lived with my Aunt Louise in Morningside. And I can remember I would get a really, really nice $48 John Romaine pocketbook for Christmas. That was a big deal with a single mom with her income. But then I would get a couple of really pretty dresses that came from the Goodwill store. So I would get one nice new something. And so, you know, we lived in Morningside. I went to Grady High School. We were in an influential neighborhood, but we were living with my aunt who had bought this house. So I didn't know that we didn't have it all. I didn't know that, you know, I got this great John Romaine pocketbook, but then I got these 2 cool dresses that came from the Goodwill store. Can you see your granny doing that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And Mama would put that John Romaine pocketbook on layaway, and there's no telling how long she paid on it.
You got to write a book.
I'm writing a book. But when you look back, I didn't know that I didn't have it all. I thought I had it all.
Well, you really do. I mean, you got a great personality. You really did, but it was kept You know, that's amazing. You could never, what would have happened if you could have never had a television career? And that'd been a great loss for so many people.
Well, I've looked back now that I found the brother in Texas, and I've thought a lot about, I would like to know what I would be like had there been a positive man in my life.
Oh, you would
Because I didn't have a father figure. My grandfather had multiple sclerosis from the time he was 36 years old. He was a big, big part of my life.
Yeah.
But he also, at 36 years old, by the time he was 50, became bedridden.
Right.
Yeah.
So during my life, I didn't know a positive man. And I look at a lot of successful women today who will say, I'm successful. Well, Joyce Myers is one of them. Yeah. She was abused, molested, raped, you name it. And she is very, very successful. She was, all those things were done to her by a man. I wasn't abused, molested, or raped by a man. I was walked out on by my father. So when you look at successful women today, it's because there was a missing element in our life. And from that missing element, we looked for something to fill the void, maybe.
But you got the drive.
I hope I do.
And I'll tell you something else.
I think my father must have been very, and my late husband made this statement, because my mama was a little laid back. Was she a little laid back? And yeah, my late husband said, your daddy must have been a hustler because you don't take no for an answer.
Yes, that's part.
And I don't.
That's part of what makes a great salesperson. But it's amazing. There are 5 million millionaires in the country today, and 90% of them came from poor families.
Wow.
You didn't realize that, did you? Most of them. Well, like Albert Harrison. He came over here in '58 and borrowed $50,000 to start the ETC. And you know what happened? Look at it today. I mean, most of the people that have made big money and are really successful came from very, very poor families.
And like now, your idol in the whole world is Warren Buffett.
Well, I don't like his politics. You know, he's a Democrat. But he's the best stock. He has made, Angela, he bought, listen, this is amazing. Warren Buffett in 1988 bought $1 billion, B as in boy, $1 billion worth of Coca-Cola. That Coca-Cola today is worth $10 billion. He's made $9 billion on Coca-Cola. People ask me, Joe, how can you make money in the stock market? And I say, well, let me tell you about Warren Buffett. And the stock market is, even today, the market as we talk is 10,200. It has, in 1982, when Ronald Wilson Reagan was President of the United States, the Dow Jones was 800. Today, it's 12 times higher than that. So can you make money in the stock market? Of course. You have to be persistent. You have to, you know, just like I say, I've got good stocks like Exxon, Coca-Cola. I got Procter & Gamble, they own Gillette. Everybody shaves, everybody buys diapers for kids. I mean, those are things that everybody's going to keep drinking Coca-Cola, I think. So, you know, you just have to, and get a good financial advisor. Somebody like Calvin, Paul Kiker. You got two good ones here. But that's important because most people, I've been blessed, I've studied stocks, and even though as much as I study them, I got 5 financial advisors. Because I feel like And
I told you I could single-handedly take down the stock market. All I have to do is buy a little stock, and it tanks. It tanks. I mean, I'm telling y'all, I could take down the whole world. I am nervous about it, and I think that's the thing. I don't feel self-confident.
You got to be confident.
I had no confidence about it.
You need to build up a track record, you know, of,
I just need to build up lunch money.
I know. I was just thinking, I don't have the money to buy
Well, I tell you, the key is never give up. Believe in yourself. Find your passion and surround yourself with positive people, and then make yourself have fun.
Right.
Because, and think about this, if you're not fun to be around, you're always, I mean, you may be hurting, and I'm sure you've been out to log cabin before where you were hurting. Yeah. But you would never know it. No. You're smiling, you're funny, you tell that funny jet ski story, which I'll never forget long as I live. I'll wake up in the middle of the night thinking about that and start laughing. Cherie Martin's jet ski story. Well, see, and that's the thing.
I wanted to call a cop friend of mine so bad and have her pulled over that day. just to see what she'd do.
It was bad.
But I mean, your mother's just really funny. I mean, she's spontaneous humor. And we need more people.
And I can laugh at myself.
Yeah, that's what
I can laugh at myself.
We all need to be able to look at ourselves and say, you know, boy, I had a bad day. I tell you, one time I was on CNN about 10 years ago. I've been on Larry King and all those shows. And the guy, Susan Rook, called me. She ran with the anchor. She said, Joe, come down here and be here at 9 o'clock. Or whenever the show, I forgot when the show started. Anyway, the television lights were really hot. And the top guy was the economist for Georgia State. And I assumed, and you should never assume anything, that she would go to him first. So I was sitting over there, just, you know, staring and thinking about something else, and all of a sudden they said, CNN Live in Atlanta, all over the world, and Susan Rugg, and she said, Joe McCutchen, what do you think about something? And I thought, my Lord, I hadn't even thought of anything. And I gave an answer, and I thought, what a dumb answer. She said, well, why did you say that? And then I said something else dumb. So I got home that night, and I called my best friend, Paul Quarles, and I knew what he'd say. I said, Paul, how did I do today? He said, Joe, you were absolutely awful. And that was all over the world.
Oh, my
and so that
gosh.
was my lesson that I learned, that anytime, just like on this show today, you need to, I thought about what I was going to say. I don't know what Cherie's going to ask me, but I'm ready. But I was just, I thought they'd go to the other guy first, and I
You
thought,
weren't ready.
then I'll think
But
about
Joe,
it.
sometimes I'm ready on here and I still say stupid stuff.
Well, see, we all do. I'm sure today I've said some things too. But the main point is that you are alert, that you know you're ready. I mean, I know I'm ready for your mother to ask a question.
I didn't say stupid stuff. She thinks something was wrong with me.
Well, I mean, I think what we need to do, and that's where your mother comes in. I think we got so many people out there that need to be encouraged to find their passion, to be around positive people. Some people keep hanging around negative people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you hang around somebody, I tell you how you can tell easily. If I said to you, that's a pretty dress. But if I said to you, and can't you get a better dress than that? That's probably jealousy. Why would I say that? Unless
Yes.
I'm jealous of you. Or if I said something like, boy, you weren't very good today, Cherie. What would I do that for? You're always good.
Yeah.
But that would tell you that I'm insecure myself, and I'm looking to find fault with you.
Yes.
So you want to find people that will tell you that your mother's great. I mean, she's a wonderful human being. She's got an incredible ability to energize, motivate people that 99% of the American people don't have.
Right.
How many people do you know that, you think about it, don't answer the question, but how many people do you know in your life that can motivate like your mom and energize? I love the word energize. That's
Yes.
Energize, motivate, those are great positive words. She's got a great, she's blessed with that. And so I say we need it all over the country. Because I've never met anybody. I have some people, I'm sure, and you have people come up to you, and I've had people say, boy, Joe, I really enjoy you on television. I know you're tired of hearing that. No,
I never
Do you ever
hear
get
that. No.
somebody, if you had 100 people call you today and say, Cherie, you were great, you would not tell one of them, with the number 100, you wouldn't say, well, now listen,
I'm
you
so
don't
tired of
need,
hearing
you don't
that.
need to tell me how great I am. You'd say, thank you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, everybody, it doesn't matter how successful you are, we all like to be affirmed.
You know what I said? I think the true measure of success is when you are comfortable with who you are.
Yeah,
And,
you are.
And I think that took some building with me, because I'd been told for so long how stupid I was. And I'd been told, you know, I don't know why you think you can do that. And I had heard that so much. But once you get to a level that you think, I can do this, then you're okay. You're okay. But it is very tough to get to. And that is something I had to struggle with. Because if you hear every single day of your life, I don't know why you think you could do that. Well, what makes you think you need to go back to school?
Right.
Why do you think you need to get your real estate license? You know, when you hear that over and over and over, and then all of a sudden, when that negative is gone and you don't hear those negative words, then you begin. God can put thoughts in your head, and you think, I could really do this. I think I could handle this.
Right.
I'm going to handle this. But it takes that turning from the very lowest point, and you have to decide, I'm going to be straight up and straight out, and I'm going to make this happen.
Make it happen. That's
I can
important.
make it happen.
There are three kinds of people: those that make it happen like you do, and I try to; those that watch what happened, and those that say, "What in the world happened?" I mean, you
Yeah.
got to make it happen.
love that.
I mean,
Yeah.
just like you, we want to make it happen that you become nationally syndicated. We've got to make it happen.
Yeah.
We got to take charge. We got to build the Cherie Martin Army. So if you're listening out there, please join the Cherie Martin Army, because we need her all over the country. Right?
Well, I want to take a break, and I want to talk about a man who has really, really touched me. Eric Chastain is the hottie. You know, the Promise Quartet's a really, really great gospel group. But Eric is like the one. You know, he could be the poster child for the firefighters calendar. He is such a good guy. And somebody told me he is celebrating a birthday this Sunday.
Really?
Well, he is. He has that little silver hair going on. He is such a good guy.
Which
And he is
birthday?
such a good looking guy. He's going to be 43. So happy birthday. And I want to give a special message from his mom, Kathy Chastain, and your family. We love you, and we are very, very proud of you. Eric is a good dad. He's a good father. He's a good Christian. He is a good son. He's a good firefighter. He's a good instructor when you go down the Ocoee. Everything he does, Eric Chastain excels in. He is one of the reasons Singing in the Mountains is so successful. He is so positive. He is so pumped up, and he doesn't take no for an answer. He is one of those guys that you want to surround yourself with. Now, this week, you can hunt him down on Sunday, and you can give him a big birthday hug because he will be 43 this Sunday.
You know who I think and admire so much as a father? Patrick Lindstrom.
Patrick Lindstrom, good guy.
He loves his little girls, and I just think that's such a beautiful thing for those girls.
You don't know the times. I've
those
invited
girls.
Patrick Lindstrom on this show probably 10 times.
Okay.
No, you know what he says? I'm babysitting today. I don't have anybody to keep the girls. I'm babysitting
He's
today.
a fireman.
He's a firefighter,
That's
so
great.
he's on so many hours, off so many hours. But he is one of those men.
And he cooks peach cobbler.
Oh, he cooks. And when he came, he did bring food. But there are, as I look back at my life, I am now looking at what man in my life possibly did make a difference with me. Your grandfather, Ralph Baker,
Yes.
made a big difference with me because he died at 80, and it was like my true father had died, even though he was only my father-in-law a short time.
Right.
He was a very positive, very,
one of
very
the
good
best men
man.
I've
You
ever
need
known.
those
Yeah,
people.
yeah,
You got to
yeah.
have those people.
So when you look back in your life, try to find somebody who made a difference with you.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and I have, on my website, I dedicated a page to Mrs. Maisel Kemp. She was my home ec teacher. Now, let me tell you why I was in home ec 3 times a day. I made a 23 average in biology. Hated biology. Did not get it, did not understand it, couldn't even conceive what the heck they were talking about. And the teacher taught with a boa constrictor wrapped around her waist. And quite often she would be walking down the aisles in the class and I would be like this. So I went to Mr. Durthick, our principal, and I said, Mr. Durthick, you got to get me out of Miss Thomason's class or I'm going to kill her because I'm terrified of this snake. So they said, well, what else could you take? I said, well, give me home ec again. 3 times a day I'm in home ec, 2 times for home ec, 1 time for psychology. Mrs. Maisel Kemp never knew what an impact she had on my life. She was an amazingly positive woman. She told me I could do it. She told me I could succeed.
That's the key.
And I would sit there before class, and this is so funny. I always wanted to be a beautician. Honey, I am not cut out to be a beautician. Forget it. I cannot do the hair thing. But I would pluck her eyebrows before class. And I can remember thinking, I'm teacher's pet. You know, I'm teacher's pet. But she never knew. And when you go to my website, there is a page in honor of her.
That's wonderful.
She didn't know what an impact she made on me. So if somebody has turned your life around,
Tell 'em.
if somebody has, share it with them.
Yeah,
share it with them.
that's very important. And you know, I've heard people say, I've gone to funerals and say, what did you think of old Jack? Oh, I thought he was great. Did you ever tell him? No. So
No.
I would suggest today, right now today, if you enjoy this lady's show, call her up, write her, send her an email, tell her, anybody that's helped you, don't say, well, if you think some lady's pretty, say, boy, you're a pretty girl. Or whatever will uplift him. Don't
Right.
keep it inside, pass it on.
Right.
I mean,
and I think that's something I regretted later because I wanted Miss Kemp to know, and you know, it's funny how the computer kind of brings the world together. About 10 or 15 years ago, I tried to find Miss Kemp on the computer. Well, her name was Maisel Kemp, and her husband's name was Ralph. And so I did the search, you know, and I never could find them. And I said, that is such a shame because I would love for her to know what an impact she made on me.
Well, everybody needs to tell somebody you appreciate them because that's vitally important.
Is there anybody, the one person that you can say, you said your mom, your grandmother, your father, you said your father was really, really smart?
Yeah, Daddy had 30 patents on the invention of machinery. He had 30 U.S. patents. And yet I inherited none of that ability. But see, I never felt badly about it because Mother told me since you were a great speaker and you were a leader, I was always elected the most popular in the class, and I was the president of about everything I was in. So I mean, and so I never had a complex because I didn't have Daddy's mechanical ability. Yeah, Daddy was a mechanical genius. And
was your daddy easy to talk to?
yeah, I think so. He was extroverted. Mother was quiet. In fact, her name was Christine Bandy, and when Daddy married her, he was 7 years older. He told her, he said, Christine, you got to become more outgoing, you know. And
she said,
yeah, but
okay.
but Daddy was a real extrovert. Daddy was a real good. I get my speaking ability from Daddy. But yeah, he was a fun-loving guy too. He was a lot of fun. Good athlete. He played quarterback to Dalton. Came from Dalton High, and he went to Georgia Tech. And And I'll tell you something interesting. His father was captain of the Georgia football team who beat Georgia Tech. His name was Frank McCutchen. You look in the history books. Frank McCutchen scored 2 touchdowns to beat Georgia Tech in 1900. He was captain of the Georgia football team. Then Daddy was the black sheep of the family for going to Tech. I went to Tech. My son and my daughter went to Tech, and we're the only family. Daddy was a trustee. I was a trustee, and Kelly. We're the only family in Tech history that we had 3 generations of trustees.
Wow.
So I love Georgia Tech. I'm not against Georgia. I got more Georgia friends than I got Tech friends. In fact, talking about Coca-Cola, Frank Ross, who was captain of the only undefeated national championship Georgia team, I've had him on my television show a couple of times. I think he'll be president of Coca-Cola, and he is a great guy, just a great guy. So I love Georgia Tech. I could tell many stories. I roomed with Taz Anderson, who played for the Cardinals, and I've just had a very interesting life, being very blessed. But no, Daddy and my grandmother and my granddaddy had the first plane in Dalton. He had a 6th grade education, but he became extremely successful. My Uncle Jack Bandy started Carnet Carpets, which was on the New York Stock Exchange, and he was the second biggest stockholder in RCA. And a championship golfer. Even today, he can beat people. He's 83.
God.
And he went to Georgia Tech on a football scholarship. And he's one of the top guys, but he's very humble. I mean, he wouldn't come on the show. He's just very quiet.
What haven't you done that you are determined to do before you leave here?
I like to interview Warren Buffett.
Okay.
I like to because he's the #1 stock man of all time. I'd love to. I think I know I could do a good job. I like to interview him. I can't do Reagan. Can't do Thatcher. Thatcher's gotten too old. But I'd like to interview. I'm like you. I like to interview successful people. I'd like to get Warren Buffett on the show. That'd be and of course I have a goal of I want to see you nationally syndicated. I want to be a guest on the Cherie Martin Show all over the United States.
And I want Hannah to direct.
Okay, we get Hannah to direct it. But that's what we want.
If I had my way, Hannah would be here 5 days a week.
And listen, you envision that. You envision you're already there.
Right.
See? And you're ready. I mean, somebody asked me, could Cherie Martin go national? I say, yeah, she's ready right now. Could Allegheny go national? You both are ready. I mean, so why, instead of Al's doing, a couple of million, he's ready for 50 million. You're ready for 50 million.
Right.
We just got to make it happen. Angela, we got to tell
Well, somebody just called, and I heard Hannah say...
Betty Gibbs.
Betty Gibbs. Okay, I love Betty Gibbs. Let me tell you the story about Betty Gibbs.
She's precious.
She is absolutely
We
precious.
love you too.
She and her husband come to the community meal every week, and they volunteer. Her husband has been battling congestive heart failure, kidney failure, you name it. He worked in the mines at the company in Copper Basin for many, many years. They come and give every single week. There were weeks that they didn't have the money, and Ernest would buy a big ham for our community meal. That's the kind of people I surround myself with.
That's great.
That's the kind of people who never stop giving, who never stop giving of their time, of their selves. And we want to ask prayer again today for Ernest Gibbs. He is such a good guy. And he has a history. I hope he will be included in the story about the Copper Basin. You don't know what it would be like to have 76% unemployment. The Copper Basin does.
Gosh.
The Copper Basin does. But those people, you need to spend some time up there. They have the ability to bounce back better than anybody I've ever seen in my life.
Those people are wonderful.
Wonderful.
They are wonderful. And I said, I think that's one of the things when life knocks you down, you get
back
up, you get up, you get up.
Persistence is the never give up. Surround yourself with positive people. Have fun each day, and also tell people your goals. Tell people you want to be nationally syndicated.
Right.
Because if they don't know, they can't help you.
Well, I said, I made a statement. We're going to do something next week in honor of David Collins, and it has taken me 3 years to get this done. Tom Graves was instrumental in getting it started, and now Rick Jaspers has finalized it. It was my goal to see that we honored a man who died in Iraq for us. David Collins will be honored next Wednesday. To see that sign up that says the David Collins Interchange. Right. Someday I hope there'll be a sign up that says home of Cherie Martin.
Right.
I see that happening.
No, you say there will be.
There will be.
There will be.
Yeah, there will be. There will be. Joe Kelly says there will be. But set goals for yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's something I've learned.
And have fun. Here's another thing. Set goals, but have fun. on the way to your goals.
Yeah.
I mean, like, if my goal is to be the best friend of the American taxpayer, but if you see me in 10 years, say, well, Joe, I hadn't seen Barbara Walters down here interviewing you as the best friend of the American taxpayer, I'd say, well, Cherie, I've had a great time.
Yeah.
On the way to my goal, I didn't
Yeah.
quite get there,
Yeah.
but boy, am I having fun.
Yeah.
And that's the key. I am having so much fun being right here today. That's the key. Are you doing are you having fun? If you're
Yeah.
not, change
Yeah.
your life.
Yeah. I think that's something we've all had to learn. And today, a lot of people say I smile a lot more than I used to smile. I have a lot to smile about. Now, there have been times, and truly 4 weeks ago, I was so down. Very few people knew how down I was. You did, your sister did. Just a few people knew that it had gotten to the level I thought, man, can I come out of this? But I did. I did.
Well, let me tell you something. Just always remember when you get down, and this is true, say, think of all the people that need Cherie Martin.
Oh, yeah.
Think of that.
Yeah.
Because this show lifts people up.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a very happy, confident person, but when I turn it on, it energizes me. So I need it. Here's a happy person, me, but I think I need it. So,
There's a picture, and I wish I could remember this gentleman's name. We were at the log cabin one day, and he said, we never miss you. And his wife said, oh, he never misses you twice a day, you know.
Yeah.
And he said, I just love watching. And I thought, man, that meant so much to me. That meant so much to me.
people love you, they need you, and that ought to be, when you get up every day, you ought to say, tons of people need Cherie Martin, and there are a lot more out there that need to get me, and I need to be natural.
Well, I was on your program, and it was one of my favorite days ever.
and you told me you were scared.
I was a nervous wreck, y'all. I was a nervous wreck.
I can't
but
believe that.
you asked me something, and I remember my answer. I said, if I can make a difference in one life, if I can make a difference in one life, and a gentleman came up to me in church one night and said, I was facing suicide 2 Saturday nights ago.
Yeah,
and he said, something you said on a Friday show, and I said, suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary situation. You have faced that?
Yep.
She was within seconds of dying.
Really?
Yes, about
God bless you,
15 years
Angela.
ago.
I was in 98.
98.
Thank God
Angela
you're-
tried to commit suicide, and she came very, very close to leaving here.
Now,
And
what a loss that would have been.
absolutely, absolutely. But when you look around, and I've made a statement now, and I told you this, I said, if I'm ever found dead, it was murder. It was not suicide.
You're not going to kill yourself.
It was not suicide. But I have had those thoughts. And I think we've got a psychologist coming on again next week. Ann, you know her
Oh, yeah,
from
she was
Raymond.
great. And that Ann and Raymond program
She was
great.
awesome.
I have lunch at
She
Raymond.
was awesome, and we got so many positive calls from that. We are not alone as to the trials and tribulations we have faced.
Right.
You know, and that's the thing about this program. People share their stories.
Yeah.
There are so many
Well, like
stories
Angela, I
out
didn't know
there.
that that's God bless
yeah.
you.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that.
She was seconds away from dying.
Oh, God.
Seconds
Thank
away.
God.
And was in intensive care how long?
It was a while. I was blue. And,
Yeah,
not
yeah. She was almost gone.
Well, now, surround yourself with positive people.
Yeah, it makes such a difference.
Yeah,
And I said her daughter has this positive attitude, doesn't she?
Yes.
Yeah. And her daughter is addictive.
She's a go-getter.
She is.
She's fun.
Yes, that was my
She
grandmother.
is. She is.
My daughter is just absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
I look at her and I think, where did I get you?
Well, that's
You know,
wonderful.
I was so blessed. Her father and I really were blessed with this child.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I think it's important to tell people pass on compliments.
You know what we've got to do? We've got to draw the birthday drawing.
Yay!
And I'll tell you, there ain't many of y'all in here today. Where y'all been this week?
I know. I think everybody's on vacation.
I think they are, but we're going to let Joe Kelly draw the birthday drawing. Miss Hannah, where does the cake come from this week? Okay, we'll tell you in just a second. Let's see who won the birthday cake. It is Clay McClure from grandmother Lou Jean McClure, 16 years old. Happy birthday, Clay. And
Look
we will
out,
find
he's driving.
He's driving if he passed that driver's test. And you know, I want to say good morning to the folks up at the license examining place in Blue Ridge. If you've got to get your license, that's the place to go.
It is.
That is the place
Blue
to
Ridge
go.
is the best place to go.
Well, y'all, this weekend is going to be busy for all of us. We're going to be getting the motorhome ready, excuse me, to go see Miss Loretta Lynn
Yes.
next week. Next week will be my official first day off, July the 2nd. You and
Yes.
Charlene will be here. It is going to be a positive time in my life. I have turned the corner. Dairy Queen and Jasper, one of our
Yay.
favorite places where they do a great job with the Cherie Martin Blizzard, just like the Dairy Queen here in LJ. They do a great job.
Yep.
There is officially a Cherie
That's
Martin
great.
Blizzard.
Larry
Yeah.
Johnson's still on that.
He does not, but some
I
nice,
like
nice
Larry.
folks do.
I like
Yeah.
Larry.
Well, you know what's happened now?
What?
Time has flown. I'm so sorry that we didn't get to show the Danny Nelson story. We will try to get that put on a different disc and see if
I
it'll
can't
play.
believe it's time to go already.
It is time to go.
It's time to go camping.
He was one of my favorite guests, and I hope to share a little bit of him. And thank you to Hannah for doing the Wanda Jackson special. You will get to see that very soon on ETC. Thank you for being
Thank
here.
you, Cherie.
I love you,
You're
buddy
great.
boy.
Love
I
you
love
too.
you. I
Y'all are
love you.
great.
I love you.
Y'all are great.
From North Georgia now today, I'm Cherie Martin. Cherie Martin, and guess where I'm headed? I'm headed trucking.
I know, and I'm Piper Elizabeth Kodak, and we don't like to say goodbye, so we'll say see you later.
This is Angela as a Blonde. We will be with you again Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 10 a.m., 6 to 7:30 p.m., and 1 to 2:30 for you late nighters. Don't forget, Rich Scott comes on right behind us. You be here, and we'll be here too, only on ETC3.
That's all that I can claim in this world. When my race down here is run and I face the